For many of us, we may feel like we're not where we want to be in our careers, or even our lives. It can be easy to feel like everybody else is winning and we're being left behind. But progress is rarely, if ever, linear. And just because we've made a plan and we think we should be successful does not mean that life is going to adhere to that plan for your success. We've all seen this chart, and more often than not, this is a fairly accurate depiction of how successful people got to where they are. But while you may feel like you're here on your journey, it's entirely possible that you're closer to here than you think. And look, I get that it seems like everybody else has their lives put together. We all see those 20-year-old millionaires on social media all the time and feel like crap. But nobody is immune from that feeling all the time. Even those 20-year-old millionaires probably feel behind when they check out those 8-year-old millionaires. Really, this feeling of being somehow behind in your life or your career comes down to perspective. So that's why when I'm feeling a little bit behind, I feel like I want to shift my framing a little bit. Imagine that somebody you knew joined the military when he was 20. He served 20 years and retired from the military. But he's just 40, so he's still interested in working. So he picks up yet another new skill set that he's interested in and just starts a new entry-level job as a developer, working with kids half his age doing a similar job and making a comparable salary. Is he behind in his career? This scenario helps me for two main reasons. The first reason is that I think we're much more likely to attribute meaningful value to the 20 years a person spent serving in the military rather than some guy spending 20 years in his mom's basement. The reason that matters is because we tend to use two overly simplistic variables when determining if we're behind in our careers or even our lives. And those variables are age and money. I should be making X amount of money each year by the age of Y, or else I'm behind. But where do those values come from? Is there some objective age-money ratio that determines if a person is successful or if they're falling behind? I think we all know the answer to that is obviously not. These ideas of where we should be are entirely determined by our comparison to others. Maybe our best friend that we graduated high school with, or an older sibling. Maybe you're even comparing yourself to social media influencers and feel like if you're not a millionaire by age 20, that you're behind. Now, I'm hardly the first person to suggest that comparing yourself to others is a pretty harmful and toxic practice, especially when determining how successful you are in your life or career. But what are some practical steps you can take to stop feeling like you're somehow behind? Well, let's go back to that example that we just talked about. The second reason why I like it so much is because, at least for me, I find that I'm much more compassionate when it comes to judging that 20-year-old veteran than I would be judging my own success. Which brings me to the first action step to feel better about where you are in your life, and that is to reframe the situation. If somebody else came to you with the exact same life experiences and felt behind, how would you respond? In my experience, with a lot more compassion and understanding than if you were simply judging yourself and your experiences. You would remind them that everything they've done to this point has brought them to where they are, that their unique experiences and achievements are truly meaningful, regardless of how much money they're making right now. The second action step is to stop comparing yourself to other people. Like you haven't heard that before. But even though we know we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to others, actually following through on that idea is 1,000 times more difficult. I get it. So again, I wanted to share what I find helps for me. And that is taking breaks from social media, and honestly, even entertainment like movies and TV shows. Now, I'm not saying you need to hide in a cave and meditate for a month, but really, when you cut off all of that external input, your mind starts to work differently. You start having your own ideas, not just regurgitations of what you've seen recently. You start viewing your life in its own context rather than in comparison to something else. Obviously, this isn't sustainable long term, but I find it is a great practice that you can use every so often just to see your life for what it truly is and get a better idea of what you really want it to be, rather than what anybody else says your life should be. And that brings me to the third action step, which is making quality goals and achieving them. I think a lot of the time when we feel behind, it's because we're feeling like we're failing at something. And that's why we're behind. And that's really an easy thing to feel when you don't track your accomplishments and successes. If all you do is consider what you could have had if you had made different choices, then, of course, you're going to feel behind. You're going to feel like you've lost something or like you should be achieving something else. Setting goals in your life and then taking steps to accomplish them reinforces the fact that you are moving forward, that you are achieving things, and that you are making progress. This doesn't need to be just in your career. By the way, when you make progress in any area of your life, you start building up that momentum, which leads to a sense of accomplishment overall as you continue to make strides in all areas of your life. Success is a journey, not a destination, but it's how we can make that cliche catchphrase a reality in our mindsets that really makes the difference in our lives. By reframing our experiences and approaching them with compassion and a bit of perspective, we can begin to see that we're exactly where we should be in our lives. No more, no less. All we can do is take one meaningful step forward every single day and begin to truly appreciate that journey that we're on. When we can do that, we'll know that we're exactly where we're supposed to be.